I'd just like to talk a few minutes about a subject that you could spend a lifetime speaking about. It's very deep, and I'm going to do it all in about 3 minutes. It's something that you could spend a lifetime doing, but you could accept things a lot easier and just understand what God's really trying to accomplish with his people. What I'm going to talk just a little bit about is the sovereignty of God. And as Christians, that should be something that is just nailed in our heart. We've been shown so much as Christians, but really what the sovereignty of God is that God rules over everything. It's a blessing to us that God rules over everything and that he's in control of all things. And when you think about creation itself, and that there is a God that we believe in, that we know of, who created all things. Everything that we see and everything that we touch was created by God. It's more than we can take in, right? But it's a truth. And as we know that God is in control of all things, it's been shown to us, he created us with a free will. When he created Adam and Eve, put them in a perfect creation, absolutely perfect. He said, you got it all. You have everything. Don't eat from that one tree. Now, I know from time to time in my life, I wish, along with all my other chromosomes in my body, there would have been this spiritual chromosome that God could have easily created. He created everything. He could have easily created in Adam and Eve the spiritual chromosome, which would say, this thing is just going to infuse us with love and honor and the desire to worship him every second of our life. But that was Jesus Christ. So we have the free will, and we all know what happened there. They kind of walked away from it. But God created this perfect creation. And I think Will kind of, whether he knows it or not, in his prayer this morning kind of touched on it, in that we live now in a fallen world. So here we are, Christians, right? We believe in a God who is sovereign, who created all things, who is in control of all things, but yet we're in this fallen world, and we're faced with things that we don't like to be faced with. And so you can look at it a couple of different ways, and I'll get into that, but there is a rub there. I don't know if there's a rub for you, but there has been a rub for me in my life. And I think a lot of it has to do with your personality and things like that, whether you're a type A or a type Z personality, whatever you are, you view life in different ways. But still, as Christians, we all have to view these things. And you know, it's one thing to think about the Lord or God creating everything. And it's easy to digest that. We just believe it, right? But then when you get into day-to-day life, and you're either in college facing your next step, or you're in life with a job, or you're a kid in school, whatever the situations may be, and you start thinking of and praying to the Lord. And I think Wednesday night at our prayer meeting, it kind of struck me a little bit about this, is that we're praying, and how does God keep his arm around the trillions of transactions that he's faced with? That's when I start getting a little bit, man, I know I'm praying pretty hard here, but how do I get my spot? How do I get on the list? Because there's like a billion people praying about a billion other things. And how does God keep control of all those things? But the Lord himself proved to us that he was sovereign, and that he displayed to us the magnificent, all-knowing, and all-powerful attributes of God. Because, the Lord Jesus Christ came down here, and they told him, no man has ever spoke like you. And the Lord himself said about all that he knew, I know every sparrow that falls. I know the hairs on your head. He was the one that could go to the well and told the woman, are you married? She said, no. He said, no, you're not. that you were married many times. He was all-knowing about everything. He was the one that could challenge the Pharisees time and time again, right? He knew their evil thoughts. And so the Lord proved that he was all-knowing. He proved that he was all-powerful. He's in the boats and the waves are just crashing down on them, and that boat's going to sink, right? Everybody on the boat, this thing is going down. They wake up the Lord and he says, be still. All-knowing, all-powerful. The Lord proved it time and time again. And so you look at this when he says, go, your son lives, or Lazarus, rise up from the dead. All of these things prove the omnipotent and omniscient power of God. And so we look at those things, and like Wednesday night at the prayer meeting, we could have prayed all night. We could have. If you really start thinking about all the things that are on your mind and all the things that you do, and you say, how much am I going to pray? How can I maintain this steadfastness? And then you think of the Lord Jesus Christ. Who prayed more than him? Christ prayed all the time. All the time he prayed. And so we face a lot of challenges. I don't know what your challenges are. I really don't. I have an idea. We talk sometime, and I got a flavor for them. And, everybody's challenge in life is their own. And they're sharing it with either their loved one, and they're ultimately sharing it with God. But when you think about all of those things, and then you're living in your own little world here, right? And you got your little problems in life, and they're weighing you down. And then you think, wait a minute. I serve the sovereign God. He could change all of this. He could make it all go away and make me just happy as a clam walking through life, right? He could. Yeah, he certainly could. We know he can do that. But there's a first, but when you start thinking about your relationship with God, and I'm going to kind of reflect on this for just a couple more minutes here, but in John 15 and 10, it says, I believe it's 15 and 10, it says, you do not choose me, but I choose you and appoint you that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should remain, that whatever you ask me in the Father's name, I will give to you. So, was that the right verse, Will? My paper didn't print very well. But anyway, what he's saying is, I have chosen you. You want to talk about sovereignty? I chose you. And some of us put up a really good fight. I know I did. He started choosing my family. I said, I don't want none of that. I'm having fun. I'm good. I'm going to my Catholic church and having fun. But God chose us. And he says that, he chose us to bear fruit. And so God chose us for a purpose, for a relationship, and for us to accomplish things on his behalf. And he really did. And so the mere fact that we are Christians, we are inside this envelope of God's plan. And in Psalms 103 and 19, it says, God established his throne in heaven, and his kingdom rules over all. So he has power over everything, over nature, over all the earthly things, over over history, everything. God has control over it. So when you think of all of those things and you say, God, pave the way. Just pave the way. I know you're controlling everything. Uh-oh, here comes something. Take it away. Don't want to do that, right? And when you start thinking about all those types of things, it's a dangerous place to go. Let me tell you that, because he's not going to do that. And you can get yourself a little gummed up inside your head by thinking, you know what? You chose me, and I'm facing all these difficulties, and I don't know the outcome, and they're all unknowns, and they're scary and everything like that. So what's the point of all this, I'd really like just to have a nice, easy life. And so this is a fundamental issue with not just us as Christians here in 2016. It's a fundamental issue with God's people throughout history. And what I'm thinking about, what I've been reading through, is the Old Testament, and starting when they crossed the River Jordan. So he's pulled them out of Egypt, right? Shown them all these miracles, how he will take care of them. Parted the waters of the Red Sea. Then a couple of things happen. They roam around in the desert for 40 years. He has to start weeding them out. Then they cross the River Jordan, right? So as they crossed the River Jordan, this is what they wanted. They wanted their own promised land. Just like what I'm saying. Just lay it out for me. But it wasn't that easy. They had to fight many battles with Joshua, and they had to fight and scratch with the Lord on their side. So they were winning all the battles, unless they weren't walking with the Lord. It's the same way with us. Whatever the battle is, whatever the outcome is going to be, when you're with the Lord, it's altogether different than if you are not walking with the Lord. And so they fought all these battles, and they went through the whole thing, and they took over all this land and whatnot. And then what did God do to try to help these people out? He starts sending them judges, right? Sent all these judges in to give them messages from God. This is what I want. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. So the judges hung around for about 400 years. And so all these relationships with God's people, trying to tell them what to do. They said, God, we want a king. We need somebody to lead us. Well, obviously they missed the point. And I think a lot of times I missed the point. Maybe we all missed the point. God is our king. God is the one that leads us into everything. No matter what your life is today, no matter how many twists and turns you've had in your life, and ups and downs, whatever, God is the one who's the king over your life. And so you look through all those things, and so God gave him the judges, and so that he said, you want to kings? Well, we'll give you kings. So he started giving them all these kings, and he had this unified Israel, right? There, I built you a nation. You were scattered. You were in captivity. You were all these things. You're now a nation. I give you a king. So the nation of Israel was born, just like any other nation. And they got their kings. So how long do you think that lasted? That perfect thing that God set up for them. About 165 years. 165 years, they were a nation of Israel. They went through a lot of bad kings. You know, they had David and Solomon, then good kings, bad kings. They split up into Israel and Judah. As they split up, Judah, they lasted about another 220 years, or Israel did. Judah lasted a little bit longer than that, maybe 300 and some years. But as time went on, and you read through Chronicles and Kings and everything, God laid it out for him and gave him the promised land. He gave him everything. Just like my mental state might want to do sometime. And what did they do? They messed it all up. They start worshiping idols. The God that gave them everything, the God that gives you and I everything, it's so easy to become complacent. It's so easy to say, oh, life's pretty good. I can handle this. Easy to do. And all that God wants us to do is he chose us. He wants us to bear fruit for him. To worship and to honor him. But when our life is all nice and easy, personally, I don't do that as well. I go it alone pretty quick. Think I can figure this out. And that's what happened in Israel. King after king. All these terrible kings come in. Then one good one would come in, and he'd throw away all the idols and everything. But boom, here comes another bad one, another bad one, another bad one. So eventually what happens is the Lord takes them and he puts them in exile. Babylon takes over. First the Assyrians They wall up the Israelites. And then the Babylonians took them into captivity. And this is what struck me. In Jeremiah, I'm reading in Jeremiah, the Lord takes the people and he puts them into captivity. The Babylonians are taking them into captivity, but he sends a messenger from Jeremiah to the king of Babylon and to the people of Israel. And he says, okay, here's the deal. Build yourself houses. Because what are they saying? My goodness, why in the world would we be sent to Babylon? Those guys don't believe in anything. They believe in these big stones and all this stuff, and we're going to go under their rule? Hey, we're better than that at least. He says, go and build houses, plant your food, marry and have children. And their head is spinning, and he lets the king of Babylon know that as well. But then in Jeremiah 29, in verse 11, it says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. These people went in a million directions. They did everything against what God asked them to do. He sent them into captivity, and I can guarantee you that a lot of them went fighting and scratching, filled with fear, filled with anxiety, not even recognizing that they had walked away from the Lord, that he had never walked away from them. But in all of that, he gives them a promise. God is so unbelievably sovereign and yet loving that he was not going to hang them out to dry. He said, I have plans for you. And he did. And his plans were fulfilled later. And I thought when I was reading this, and you think about your own little life and all the things that are going on, and, Lord, where are you to rescue me from this, that, or the other thing? And all the while, God is behind the scenes. And am I the Christian that goes into Babylon fighting and scratching, not trusting, not depending on God? Or am I like Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego? Am I like Daniel? They told him, you worship that 90-foot statue or whatever it was, or you're going into the fire. It's your choice, easy choice. They said, we're not even worried about answering you. We will not worship that. They went in with the full trust and knowledge that God was the sovereign God. That no matter what the world around them, no matter what happened to them, that is who they belong to. Very deep subject. The bottom line is, you're probably not going to figure it out in life. We really aren't. It's not about us figuring it out. It's not about us controlling much of anything in life. And I think some of this comes because I'm in charge of planning for a company, and that's what I do. I was just telling Paul, and it's probably not even appropriate for here, but Woody Allen, the comedian, said, when people make plans, it causes God to laugh. It's not our plans. He has a plan. It's about faith and not our control over much of anything.